being a new Magic the Gathering player means that not only do you need to learn the game and its really in-depth rule systems, keep up with the rapid-fire release rate of new cards, and learn about the decades of cards that came before, but you also need to learn about and research investing in protection for your deck, sleeves, deck boxes, etc., which also has a rapid fire release schedule that's hard to keep up with. There are so many products out there. So today we are going to be reviewing the Gamegenic Squire Plus 100 Plus XL deck box. More specifically, we're going to be reviewing that in contrast to the ZLCA deck box of similar specifications, which can be found on your favorite A to Z online retailer. Now, full disclaimer, we did reach out to Gamegenic in the summer of 2024 to get one of these deck boxes that they so kindly provided to us. However, I didn't want to rush out a review simply because they gave me a product. That's not how I want things to work around here. I really gave myself a lot of time to use this, and this has been one of my mainstay deck boxes. Now, all of that being said, we're going to be rating the deck boxes on 4 different criteria. First, we're looking at durability. Obviously, it is how durable has this been? Does it get dinged up? Does it flex, bend, break easily, etc.? Outside of that, we're looking at card fit. We're looking at how many cards can fit in it reasonably, comfortably, how easy it is to get those cards out of the deck box, and if there's any other extenuating circumstances. Then we're looking at appearance, because let's be honest, just like deck building is self-expression, so is the appearance of our deck boxes sometimes. Now, some of you may not care about this literally at all, and some of you put a lot of weight on it, like myself. If the deck box doesn't look sleek, maybe it's not for you. So we're looking at that. And lastly, we're going to be looking at price. Magic the Gathering and other TCGs can be expensive endeavors, and buying deck boxes like these can be entirely a luxury. But on top of the price, there are other things to consider that factor into that, like whether a deck box is sold at LGSs, which are vital to TCGs, or are these online only retailers that can cut prices because they're online only. So let's go ahead and dive into criteria 1, durability. Looking at the Gamegenic box, we're looking at an armor fiber material, which is what they call it. I did reach out to them and was able to confirm that this armor fiber is a synthetic. It is a polyurethane leather. So the biggest deal here is that this is not a real leather. So instead of becoming more durable over time, it can wear away. In this case, over the course of 6 or 7 months, I can't really adequately grade that, but I don't really see almost any deterioration in this deck box whatsoever. The inside is a microfiber inner lining, which is pretty, again, standard fare. You would find both the polyurethane and the inner microfiber to be pretty standard across all deck boxes of this sort of variety in nature. Now, for your commander or top card, we are looking at a hard plastic slide case. Now, I quite like this for a few reasons. It's very easy just to take and play your commander in this. You don't need to take it out of it. It's not bulky, it's not huge, it's not going to take up way too much room in the command zone or on the battlefield. Great, love it. The downside to this that I've seen so far is that these slide cases can be finicky to get open. So in this case, I can open it now, but in some cases I have had to actually kind of peel it apart, kind of wear it in a little bit. The card in there is very secure, so I will give you that. So it's a minor gripe, it's not the end of the world. So in terms of durability of the box, I think the box so far has been very durable. One thing I like to look at with these boxes is how durable are they without cards in them, right? So obviously this is empty, and we're gonna give it just a squeeze test here. And it's not, I mean, obviously it's giving some, but it doesn't feel like it's on the verge of collapse. There's a good amount of resistance there. The downside is that this back wall actually seems like the easiest thing to flex here. Likely because when I'm pushing on this side, the card case is actually giving me a lot of rigidity. So if I push back on this side, obviously it's giving me some flex here. We have 99 double sleeved cards and a bunch of tokens. You can see there is some flexing, but it's not bending any of the cards or seemingly affecting any of the cards too much. So in terms of being near sharp things, really, you can see it, gashes and things like that aren't going to really be that big of a problem or a big of a deal. Obviously these are dull scissors. Don't try this at home, kids. We are going to gently sort of press a letter opener or something sharper into it. And while it does create some indentations, it seems to be fairly resilient. So if you were packing this in luggage and somehow rammed it up against something that it shouldn't be against, your cards are generally going to be fine, especially if that is up against the sort of double layers here. Now, a drop test seems to be important here. So let's take a look at how well the magnet stays on, and do cards spell out when dropped at a decent height, and then does the commander stay intact? All right. All right, so we got some pretty good drops. The magnets are decent, but against a 4 to 5 foot drop, the magnets aren't going to be able to keep the top on entirely. Now, if we take all of our tokens out, that creates enough of a gap inside that we might get some different results if we drop it from 4 or 5 feet. What we're really seeing, to my eyes, is that it takes enough force to open the lid that it almost sort of absorbs the shock and doesn't shoot cards everywhere. So not too terrible, even with the cards out of it. Now, for the ZLCA box, we are looking at a polyurethane exterior, so that's, again, standard fare. The quality of polyurethane differs from company to company, but in the past 6 to 7 months, this is really done pretty okay. It's not terrible. It's a little beat up. There's some dings and dents in it. Looking at the inside, we're also looking at a microfiber interior. So again, standard stuff, not too bad. Fully detachable. Looking at the sort of commander slot, this is a standard 35 point top loader. This is not really anything terribly secure. I mean, you can use these. I think these are bulky if you're actually playing your cards out of these, but this is a preference deal. I don't love it, but it is fine. What I will say is that this is not UV protected, and then because this is just a top loader, the structure of the entire box feels worse. Now, if we give this a sort of squeeze test here, this is so much easier to bend and squeeze. I don't feel like I am having to put in that much force. I actually feel like I might be able to crumple this. Looking at this side's less durable as well. So this has just general way more give to it. It feels thinner, might be the word we're looking for. Now, to do the puncture tests, we're just going to take and give this a stab. And that seemed to kind of take that pretty well. So I would say the exterior, yeah, I would say the exterior is just as durable as the exterior of the Game Genic one. That being said, let's put the exact amount of cards in that from that deck box into this, and we'll see how the deck box drops go. Well, that happened. So when it comes to the drop test and the variance that drop tests can really have, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they are foolproof and that clearly the Game Genic box is better. What I will say is that this had the most variance. It went from cards splaying everywhere to the top never quite came off. And that obviously depends on where it impacts as it comes down. But what I will say is that more consistently, the Game Genic box, while the top came off, it seemed like maybe it absorbed that shock easier, things came out less often, and the difference is that this has 6 magnets on each side, and you can kind of see the sort of smoothness of where those magnets are. Each side has 6 magnets. Now, more notably, the ZLCA box is just bolstering 4 total magnets. Now, is that the end of the world? Does that change things? I mean, with the drop test, we saw the results, so there is likely some effect there. How much? That's really, really hard to say. Though the puncture tests were about the same, and the boxes have both held up similarly over the last 6 months, for durability, I think Game Genic has a slight leg up. The walls feel stronger, and the UV slide case for the commander makes it feel a whole lot sturdier. Additionally, the extra magnets seem to reduce the chance of cards splaying when dropped. While the flap did come off the most often when dropping this box, things came out of the box less often, and that's what I'm genuinely most concerned with when dropping my deck boxes. So I think Game Genic is a little bit more secure if you are dropping things, knocking them off tables, things like that. If you're a little clumsy, it seems like the Game Genic is just a little bit above. Now, if we're going to be talking about card fit, I think card fit is really important. How many cards can you realistically put in each deck box? How many cards do you really need to put in each deck box? For ZLCA, we are looking at right now holding 99 double sleeve cards and 22 token cards. And looking at the deck box, there is still a little bit extra room. You could probably fit, I don't know, maybe 10 or so more tokens in there if you really sort of crammed it in. And the grooves here on the deck box are fairly easy for getting the cards out of it. They are cut a little bit deeper here so you can really get a better grip on those cards. So the other thing I will say about card fit is there's kind of this extra gap at the top of this deck box. And I don't fully know why. This is a good third of an inch, half of an inch almost of extra space here at the top. Why is that there? I don't know. I'm not sure. Now, moving over to the GameGenic product, we are holding the same 22 tokens and the same 99 double sleeve cards. And realistically, what we're seeing is we could also hold more cards in here. We could probably hold maybe 5 to 10 more tokens. So we're seeing almost an equivalent amount of extra space in both decks. What I will note here is that the groove for picking up your cards is not as deep. So it is a little bit trickier, especially if you get new sleeves. You might actually find that your cards all sort of slip out of your hand. So that is the downside there, is that the GameGenic deck box has a smaller area to actually grip the cards. But it also has less area on the top for the cards. And I think both of these have an impact on the durability that we just talked about. When you're looking at a deeper hole here to be able to actually grab your cards out of, this affects the structural integrity of the box, right? This divot here makes it easier to push in on the box to damage the box for it to become bent out of shape. And I think that's also the case when it comes to like the extra space at the top, whereas GameGenic has more of a sort of perfect fit sort of mentality is what it feels like when it comes to the top of this, that makes everything feel structurally more sound. And that probably affects, I don't know, shock absorption on drops or something of that nature. If somebody's smarter than me, you let me know. I would say for card fit, we're looking at a level playing field. Realistically, we can fit the same amount of cards in both deck boxes, right? That's kind of what we're really looking at. How many cards can you get in? Is there a huge difference, right? What I will say is ZLCA has a slight leg up in terms of being able to get cards out of the deck box more easily. However, that does negatively affect the durability of the box. And so I don't want to give them too many positive marks for that, because ultimately at the end of the day, I could just turn my deck box upside down to get the cards out. That's not that hard. Now, when it comes to aesthetic is really, really important to me. Aesthetic is a huge part of deck boxes and self-expression, and I think that this one is kind of difficult. When it comes to GameGenic's aesthetic design, we have really, at first glance, an all one color aesthetic, right? And you could kind of find that this is the case with most of their products. All red, all green, all black. The stitching matches the exterior, matches the interior. And so in that way, I'm not the biggest fan of GameGenic's aesthetic design. I feel like there's a lot lacking here. There could be black with blue stitching or black with red stitching. There could be a red box with black stitching. There's all kinds of color combinations and things you could do, not to mention what you could do with the interior. I think the interior is also really open for opportunities here. So in that way, I think GameGenic's general aesthetic is a little bit boring. Obviously, they have very clean branding here, and they have clean branding right here, which I quite like. And I like the window. The window is flush with the outside, which I really like. It just looks super clean. No part of the card is obfuscated, which means if you have some favorite decks you want to put on display, this is kind of the best display to do it with. So GameGenic, I'm pretty mixed on generally. I don't like their colorways, but I love the window. Now, that being said, moving over to ZLCA, I really like their colorways and hate their windows. The colorways are cool. This is a sort of what they consider to be black. There's also a deep gray color you can get for these, and they have the stitching that also matches the interior. I like this. This is a really, really clean way for you to sort of express yourself. If this was blue with the black for our Demir players, obviously the options are endless there. Now, what I don't like is the sort of way that the window is inset, Most people will not care about this, but I don't like inset windows. It doesn't look as clean to me. And ultimately, I feel like there are some angles where I catch the card and I'm not exactly sure what commander's in that deck or something like that because of the shadow that hits, especially later at night and things like that when there's less light in the room. So kind of a mixed bag. Ultimately, I prefer the window here because I think the card rules overall. And I think for me, that gives GameGenic a slight lead in this category, but both are lacking a little bit in one way or another. Now this brings us to price. Price is obviously really important when buying anything. So looking at the price of this product, the ZLCA Deckbox is $14.99 on Amazon. That is not a bad price at all for a deck box that ostensibly is not too shabby and is only, in my opinion, very, very slightly inferior to the GameGenic box. Looking at the GameGenic box, this is a $27.99 product, the Squire Plus 100 Plus XL, $27.99. So in terms of raw price information, GameGenic loses this one by a large amount. But this is where I'm going to sort of delineate here and say that there's a pretty big difference in the prices for these products. ZLCA is sold almost only on Amazon or TikTok Shop from what I've seen, and there are a few problems I have with that. One, I can't really vouch for the integrity of the product or anything of that nature. On top of that, I really don't like to support Amazon if I can help it. Obviously, Amazon doesn't pay their employees well, with their employees going on strike, all kinds of other problems with Amazon and how they sort of affect the world around us. I'd prefer to not buy from there if I can help it. Now, when it comes to GameGenic, yes, you can buy GameGenic product on Amazon sometimes. It seems to be really sort of hit or miss. But what I like about GameGenic is when you go to buy their product off their website directs you to look up local LGSs in your area, local game stores in your area via a sort of like put your zip code in sort of scenario. And what I like about that is it seems like GameGenic is saying, hey, go to your local game store, support your local game store, spend your money at your local game store. Local game stores are the lifeblood of TCGs, right? If we didn't have local game stores, we would be forced to buy boosters from Walmart and Target, and we wouldn't be able to buy singles. We wouldn't be able to look at product really as well or handle product. It would just be a very different world out there. And on top of that, I probably wouldn't be into the game. I learned the game because of my local game store, going there, meeting people, a lot of the friends I have. There's a lot to local game stores. And so if you can support them, why not, right? So when looking at two, frankly, luxury items, is GameGenic quite a bit more expensive? Yes. Do I stand by what it seems like they're trying to do? Emphatically. I would buy a GameGenic product from my local game store any day of the week. So who wins here? I mean, I have to give it to ZLCA in terms of raw price. The price you're paying for what you actually are getting is not shabby at all. But for trying to stand on business a little bit and actually support LGSs, I have to give it to GameGenic. It's kind of a draw in that way. I'm going to be a little non-deterministic. I will say, again, I will buy a GameGenic product anytime I can afford to buy a GameGenic product at an LGS. And realistically, again, this is a luxury item. So if you can't buy this, I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to beat yourself up. Boxes like this are luxuries. I have a lot of friends that still play out of cardboard boxes that came with pre-cons. And that's totally acceptable. You do what you have to do and just enjoy the game, okay? Thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much for showing up for this product review. I hope that it made sense. And if there's anything I missed in terms of reviewing the product, please let me know. That being said, hit that subscribe button and hopefully we'll see you in the next review video.